What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another comedy review. Today we are taking on John Mulaney's Baby J. Right out the gate, I am a huge John Mulaney fan. I want to say that. I don't usually watch stand-ups that I don't already know in some form or facet. John Mulaney, I've always been a huge fan. The only thing of his I haven't watched is that kids show that he did. I love everything up to and including Oh Hello on Broadway. Most of everything I watch with John Mulaney is him and Nick Kroll, outside of his own stand-up. I love everything that those two create. I did Nick Kroll's stand-up review, I think was the last one I did. So it's very fitting that we have Baby J on Netflix now. If you don't follow Nick Kroll and John Mulaney, then you probably don't know that John Mulaney just recently got out of rehab. A lot of people were shocked by that because of his clean-cut persona, which then if you find out that he's been on amphetamines and stuff, makes more sense. You know, in his, I think it was the Comeback Kid, when he's doing the teacher that comes in and teaches him about crime and he's doing street smarts and he's jumping all over the place. This type of behavior starts to make more sense. Well, he made it in the news over the last year when he went on Seth Meyers and was clearly strung out on drugs. And then almost immediately following, he ended up in rehab. So this whole story came out. If you're following the inner circles of Big Mouth and all this, you knew John Mulaney was going away. Then Nick Kroll has his special come out. He's doing a lot of promo for that. He talks about, oh, by the way, Mulaney is working on a new special. This is how I heard it when he did, I think it was Bert Kreischer's podcast. He goes, oh, yeah, I did have an intervention for Mulaney. I hosted it, and he's trying to make this funny. So I remember right there, you could feel the uncomfortableness of Nick Kroll, and he's like, this is kind of a weird thing for him to be trying to make funny. So I went into this special with kind of a weird, oh, is he trashing his friends? You know, what's he doing? So when it starts, he jumps right in. The intro doesn't come in until 10 and a half minutes in, which at first is kind of off. It feels weird, but it works. So give it time. He's starting instantly with a joke. He's off screen. It's panning back from the back curtain, which is, again, kind of odd. You feel like he's voiceovering the beginning, but it's not. It starts with him on stage. You just can't see him until it pans out. Kind of cool theatrically. Okay, so he starts with a similar joke style to his old stuff. He's talking about siblings, which he didn't usually talk about his siblings, but he oftentimes talked about his family dynamic and how weird that was. This time he's talking about ways that his siblings would mess with him. But he's not doing the same style. So where I had previously said he's coming out kind of, wah, ha, ha, and he's very animated, right, because of drug use. He's not doing that. He's more melancholy. He's more just talking like a normal person would, which I just watched him on Theo Von's podcast, and it was weird to see that same energy there where he's just hanging out. He's just chilling. And if you're used to Mulaney, that's weird. Everything's very dramatic and eccentric and whatever. So at first it felt off-putting where I'm going, is this going to be funny? Like, is this same joke style? If he sticks with this, is it going to be funny without that energy? Well, almost from the very first second of the special until the 10 and a half minute mark where the credits hit, you feel him building back up into himself. You don't quite know if he's doing it on purpose or if this is just who he is now. But he is instantly talking about, you know, siblings and family and all that. He's not addressing the drug stuff. Well, but then bang, 10 and a half minutes comes in. Now he's talking about drugs. And now, this is what I really enjoyed about the special. John Mulaney's funny, a lot like Bill Burr's, comes from his inner monologue that he's sharing with us. How he sees the world is so unique, right? In The Comeback Kid, in New Kid in Town, and Kid Gorgeous, the other big ones that he's had, his inner monologue is always that of a pretentious child who's seeing the faults in not only his parents, but the world around him, and he's better than you, and he's prim and proper, you know, these kind of things. Now he's doing the opposite spectrum with the same resentment towards the world, where now he resents the upper class side of life because he is a lowly drug addict. and his lowly drug addict degenerate ways make sense to him, and in sobriety through hindsight he's making all this funny. Okay, so as you guys know, I don't like to give jokes away. I'll talk kind of loosely about the premises or the topics that he's covering, but Mulaney is very good about keeping his style his. So he eases in again with the sibling stuff, but then he goes right to the hard-hitting stuff. His dad, or dads after dads die. And the duality of, like, well, you want to see somebody get really weird but start enforcing that they take more pictures together, but they're never happy in them. Like, jokes like that remind me of when in Oh Hello, they're like, the vibe we give off when you walk past a travel agency, and they're like, what? These type of irreverent type, so off what you would usually expect someone to say, and that's what catches you. That's what I think comedy misses a lot in today's day and age. Originality. When you listen to a comedian nowadays, a lot of the times you go, okay, they talked about COVID. Okay, they talked about Trump. Mulaney did fall into a Trump-type cadence a couple times, I noticed. And it seemed to be when he was bringing up more political issues. So I wasn't sure if that was on purpose or not. But there's usually a Trump impression in there. There's some opinion on the president or the past president. Like, there's this very formal thing where when you watch Nick Kroll and John Mulaney, Nick Kroll totally has his own thing, and it's shitting on himself and how terrible he sees himself. And then John Mulaney is more, I'm me, and regardless of whether I'm letting you know about my drug addictions or not, I see myself as superior to the entire world. And the way I do things makes sense to me, so I'm going to do them that way. And again, it shows a pretty cool friendship between those two. So where the special really picks up is when he apologizes. He goes, I'm sorry, that started so dark. He goes, but as you guys could tell, I used to come out like this, and now I'm obviously not doing that for certain reasons. Well, that made it where you go, oh, this is all John Mulaney's genius. Everything you're feeling, everything that you're experiencing, the doubt, the worry, the concern, he's orchestrated that up to this big climactic point in the middle, which then, it's not really the middle, it's 10 and a half minutes in, but it's this big theatrical moment, which then brings you to back again to Oh Hello, where he goes, makes you wonder, is there going to be an intermission? There will not. So it's like he knows exactly where audiences get bored. He knows exactly where to pick it up. He knows to start slow because of what people are going to be expecting from him. And he makes it, again, Oh Hello, he makes a fucking meal out of everything. So then as he's starting to get comfortable, he breaks out into this Broadway type sing-song thing that he creates about quarantine. And it's fucking hilarious. He's talking about, we all walked out divorced, not knowing what the hell's going on. And it was really funny. It was one of the first quarantine takes that was just funny without shitting on anything. One of the things that I really enjoy about the continuancies or the common things in John Mulaney's specials, his lighting and his stage setup is always phenomenal. I love it. In The Comeback Kid, he was in that grand Radio City Music Hall. In the back set was changing. The lights were changing as the jokes were evolving, and it was kind of setting the tone for the joke. Same exact thing was happening here. My favorite part of the set is always, and in this one too, is when they did purple, green neons, and he's telling more of a mischievous, almost dark joke, and it gives you this Joker vibe where you're like, and he's in this like very nice, I don't even know what color suit you would call that, but it was just a really cool suit, but it wasn't so tucked up and tight like he usually is. He looked more like a casual guy who's able to dress up and be in these fancy environments, but now you're seeing the real him. His hair's not gelled up. It's kind of loose and hanging down. He's moving it around, and it's getting a little more disheveled than it usually would. He's showing that John Mulaney is not this zipped up guy, but at the same token, he is, because he has standards for life. He knows what he expects, but those things are so chaotic because of who he is. And one of the best jokes in the entire special is he goes, you think you can cancel John Mulaney? I'm trying to kill him, or I did try to kill him, and I got very close. And it was like, he's acknowledging this darkness within him, which he's always played with. He's always been angry at the world, angry at other people because of the way he sees them and the way they behave. But now it's more, you all act like you're all these things. He kind of starts with it where he goes, as soon as my intervention started, I looked at all my friends and was like, well, I'll go to rehab when you stop drinking and smoking weed. And that's kind of his whole MO, which is, you want to come at me? Let me show you how fucked up the whole world is. I don't necessarily have to attack you personally. I thought there was going to be a little bit more of that when he started mentioning Nick Kroll and Fred Armisen. He barely went at Fred Armisen a little bit where he's like, do you want to see Fred Armisen get serious? You want to see that talk to you seriously? He's like, next. He didn't, I don't think he made any real jokes at Nick Kroll's expense. He said his name. But I was going to be a little upset at that one if he went hard at Nick Kroll, even in a joking manner, because, again, what Nick Kroll did for him as someone who comes from addiction, recovery, that type of thing, it is very hard to have that conversation with a brother or something like that you love and you don't want to put them in that situation. So I'm sure the respect they have for each other, if jokes were made early on, they were edited out because it was all very respectful back towards Nick. However, that was one of my favorite jokes in the entire special where he's talking about if you get a text from someone and it comes, you have an iPhone, it comes from their email, or they FaceTime you and somehow it comes from your email. He describes that so perfectly. And again, that's one of those offbeat things you don't even think about unless it's happening. But he found it and used it in such a way where you're like, God, he's good. He is one of the comedy geniuses of our time. There's no denying that at all. He has a fantastic bit about bad drug doctors. I thought that was great, amazing. He talks about one of his bad drug doctors. I'll give this little small thing of a bit away just to watch for it because it's kind of a small part and I laughed very hard at it. He's talking about bad drug doctors and he's talking about the way this doctor operates, and which is kind of sketchy. But then he goes, always at the end, he goes, do you want a flu shot, John? He goes, no, you've given me 4 flu shots this month. I feel crazy. And I fucking lost it during that. But something about the way he goes, I feel crazy. I lost it. John Mulaney did such a good job. And you can tell at the end of this special when he takes his bow, which he often does, whether it was Oh Hello or his other specials, he takes a very formal Broadway bow. You can tell how proud he is of himself that he did it not on drugs. He did the comedy he wanted to do. He made it funny. He took the worst time of his life and made it funny without shitting on anyone, without making it politically correct, politically incorrect. He did say the thing about January 6th. He goes, you think that would have happened had I been around? He goes, I go to rehab January 5th. I come out January, 2 months later, whatever. He goes, there was no government takeovers before I went to rehab. Absolutely one when I got out. Hasn't been one since. So again, he shows where he stands in certain situations, but he made such light of it where it's, again, he's greater than all that to him. It's all about how did John Mulaney affect the situation, which that is a total drug addict mindset to be in. So John Mulaney did a fantastic job. If I had to rate this star-wise out of 5 stars, I'm giving this one 5 stars. Everything was perfect. Delivery, performance, jokes, set, everything was fantastic. If we're doing it at a 10, we're giving it 10, baby. John Mulaney crushes. I mean, he's fucking crushes. And he's back in the most authentic way possible, which, let's be honest, we've had 3 or 4 specials of John Mulaney doing that same thing where we didn't want to see that turn into, no disrespect, a Kevin Hart situation where every time Kevin drops a special, you know what you're going to get. He's short. He's going to make fun of his kids. He's going to talk about his failures as a husband, sexually, emotionally. He's going to make fun of his boys and the dumb shit they do. So it's like you get the style of comedy where with Kevin Hart, he made 1,000 movies doing an extension of that comedy where now when he puts something else, you're almost like, I don't want to see this. John Mulaney is his character. He is that persona. Well, now he's had that flipped upside down with the truth of life, and he's embracing that and still making it funny. That's the thing, is he made it very clear that even at the lowest point of his life, he's a comedian above everything else, because he was saying during his intervention, the thing that pissed him off the most was none of his comedian friends, which they all were making jokes about the situation. He goes, you know how bad that hurts? That's how we deal with shit, and none of you will let me do that. You're already taking drugs away from me. Now we can't have fun with this? Like, you can't dig at me, I can't come at you. Come on, man. He's a comedian to the core. Drugs, no drugs, he's a fucking comedian. And it's like, that's just so apparent. That man is special in comedy, and he needs to be protected at all costs, and it sounds like his friends did that. Good on you. Nick Kroll, 4 thumbs up for, saving your friend's life. Good on you. Guys, let me know what you think of the special. I loved it. I thought it was perfect. I'm not going to criticize a single thing about it. You guys let me know what you think. If you like this, thumbs up the video, subscribe. See you in the next one.